You popped up with him when he was 2 years old.
Mr. Connor, I'm going to give you a chance to respond. I promise.
I called her phone. She is out on the lake in the middle of the night with her ex-boyfriend.
What I do know is she used to take my condoms off to the bathroom, and whatever she did in the bathroom with that condom, because I used to lay there.
The case of Connor v. Wallace begins as Judge Lauren confirms their statements. Mr. Connor is here today to prove to the court that he is not the biological father of Ms. Wallace's son. Also, here is the reason Ms. Wallace and her son are here today.
You need today's results to prove you are not her child's father. Mr. Wallace, you say you trust your mother, but acknowledge Mr. Connor's recent actions have given you doubt.
The judge asks Mr. Connor why he is so determined to prove to the court that he is not the father of Mr. Wallace. His explanation shows that he is traumatized, and the audience is amazed at the revelation.
I need to undo a terrible injustice that's been inflicted upon me and my family. It's caused a lot of problems, financially especially. I've even been to jail. 2005.
Failure to pay child support.
Failure to pay child support. That is correct, Your Honor. I lost my car, I lost my job. I was 36 years old. I had to start all over.
Ms. Wallace claims her relationship with Mr. Connor was not a one-night fling. The judge requests that Mr. Connor describes his relationship with Ms. Wallace. The judge and the audience find what he has to say interesting.
We came together one time, and up on penetration, she changed her mind, and that was that. She had a friend who told me, "Did you sleep with Wanda?" And I told her the story, and then she said, "Well, I just wanted to tell you, she was pregnant already."
Ms. Wallace declares that Mr. Connor is not speaking the truth. The judge encourages Ms. Wallace to narrate her side of the story. What she has to say is the exact opposite of Mr. Connor's testimony.
That's not true either.
What do you remember, Ms. Wallace?
I remember him and I being in a whole year relationship, and we had sex numerous of times. I found out that I was pregnant. I got sick. My mom taking me to my doctor's appointment, and that's when I found out I was 2 months pregnant.
Ms. Wallace claims to have told Mr. Connor when she found out about her pregnancy, but he is quick to deny her statement. An argument is about to start, but the judge says something to rectify the situation.
I called Jewett and I told you. Back then we had you a lie.
You never told
Back
me.
then we had pagers. Shut your lying butt up.
You popped up with him when he was 2 years old.
Mr. Connor, I'm going to give you a chance to respond. I promise I will give you a chance to respond.
As Ms. Wallace recounts what happened when she went to Mr. Connor's house after she had given birth, everyone is taken aback. She tells the court what Mr. Connor's sister had told her.
When I popped over his house, it was another female there, and his sister told me that he was upstairs with another woman.
Mr. Connor tells the court why he must have been the best choice for Ms. Wallace at the time. He tells the courtroom why Ms. Wallace decided to target him and place her child's paternity on him.
I was doing pretty good. So I had a little BMW, we were young. Couple of them, I was watching them. I say, all of a sudden, here come the child support. I think maybe she thought I had a little money.
The judge is curious to know the next time Mr. Connor sets his eyes on Mr. Wallace. Apart from when he was 3 months old, Mr. Connor tells the courtroom, and Ms. Wallace affirms his story.
I seen him when he was 5. He came to my mother's funeral, repast.
And you agree to that, Miss Wallace?
Yes, ma'am.
That happened.
Mr. Connor claims that Ms. Wallace is a liar. Ms. Wallace tells the court about the ultimatum Mr. Connor gave her and how she reacted to it at the time. Here is what Ms. Wallace says that Mr. Connor told her.
He wanted me to be with him in order to be in Jeffrey's life. I should not have to be in a relationship with a man in order for him to even help with his child.
Mr. Connor continues to deny paternity with solid conviction. The judge decides to ask Mr. Wallace his question. Here is what she asks and his response to her.
When was the first time you met Mr. Connor?
The first time that I met Jewett here, that I recall meeting, I was like, 10 years old at that point. We decided to stop through this drive-through liquor store, and one of my family members was like, "Hey, that's your dad."
Mr. Wallace goes further to tell the judge about a time during the summer when he visited Mr. Connor's family. The judge tries to confirm the information from Mr. Connor. She calls up Mr. Connor's wife to the stage for her testimony.
When I was there, I spent more time with his sister and my cousins and everything, and
I do kinda, sorta. I came over there and he was already there and my wife asked me who he was.
Ma'am, please stand and step over to the podium.
Mrs. Connor tells the judge about the first time she saw Mr. Wallace when he was 10 years old. The judge asks her what her husband had told her about Jeffrey, and she responds.
Basically, that Wanda put a baby on him. He attempted to have sex with her.
At this point, when Jeffrey was 10, was your husband paying child support for Jeffrey?
Yes, he was paying child support for Jeffrey already.
Mr. Wallace explains to the judge how he felt when Mr. Connor and his wife told him there was a strong possibility that Mr. Connor might not be his father. What he says is heartbreaking.
it's a possibility I may not be his child. And that was the first time I ever heard that. So it was kind of like just earth-shattering at that point for me. It got me thinking like, darn, our presence on this earth just made a negative impact on someone else's life.
The judge decides it's time to get the results. Knowing the truth is paramount to helping all parties understand the situation better, and the result is quite shocking. The audience even reacts.
In the case of Connor versus Wallace, Mr. Connor, you are not the father.
I already knew it.
The judge begins this court session of Mr. Dennis versus Mrs. Dennis by enlightening Ms. Dennis on Mr. Dennis's stand on paternity. She responds, and Jerome escorts Mr. Dennis into the courtroom.
Miss Dennis, today will be the very first day you've ever laid eyes on the man you've known to be your father. He denies that he is your biological father.
Absolutely.
All right.
Ms. Dennis strongly believes that Mr. Dennis is her biological father. The judge asks her to explain why she has this feeling. Here is what Ms. Dennis has to say.
I had pictures my entire life. I've been looking at them since I was very little. I feel that I look exactly like him. My mother says that I look just like his mother when she was younger. I know for a fact that my mother was not with anybody else during the time that they were together.
Since this is the first time Ms. Dennis is setting her eyes on Mr. Dennis, the judge wants to know why. What Ms. Dennis had to say leaves the audience feeling surprised. Here is her response.
Why wasn't your biological father in your life? What were you told?
I was told that he actually left my mother when she was 6 weeks pregnant with me.
Wrong.
Mr. Dennis denies the claim that he left her mother when she was 6 weeks pregnant. The judge then asks him to tell the court what his position is. He says this.
When me and her mother were married, I called her phone. She is out on the lake in the middle of the night with her ex-boyfriend, while her children are up on the bank.
The judge continues by asking Mr. Dennis a question. She wants to know how soon he found out she was pregnant after he knew she was cheating on him. He replies,
Got back from Florida, we split up. I moved to Arkansas, she started the divorce proceedings, and then I got a letter in the mail stating that the proceedings had stopped due to her pregnancy.
Mr. Dennis claims that his ex-wife denied him all access to meet Ms. Dennis and also denied him several attempts to do a DNA test. The court asks Ms. Dennis when she hears of all Mr. Dennis is talking about.
When did you learn of all of this?
I heard the full story, finally when I was about 7 or 8 years old.
The judge calls on Ms. Dennis's mother, who has joined these proceedings via phone. She asks her to tell the court about the time she was on a boat with her lover, as Mr. Dennis claims.
I recall this situation. It was not after we were married that I went on a boat with a friend, and my children were there. He's a good friend of mine.
She was dating him at the time we met.
The judge wants Ms. Dennis to tell Mr. Dennis about her search for him. She wants her to describe her hurt and what she had to endure without her biological father.
It's 23 years of wondering why. Why doesn't my father want me? Why doesn't my father care? Why isn't my father trying to find me? I tried for years since I was about 12 years old to contact your family. It's been a struggle, it really has.
Mr. Dennis is emotional as he tells the judge how much money in arrears he has to keep paying for child support. He claims that he is always afraid of ending up in jail because of this. He shows evidence to the judge.
You are $146,918.51 in arrears.
I can't even get my driver's license. The reason I haven't been there is because I don't believe she is my child.
Ms. Dennis's mother claims that she sent Mr. Dennis's parents something, which Mr. Dennis fully asserts that he never saw. Here is what she sent to his parents, which they never acknowledged.
I sent them pictures for 2 years after she was born.
What?
Who did you mail
I sent them
pictures
to
to?
his parents.
Mr. Dennis, you never saw these photos,
Never,
all of
Never.
these pictures that were sent.
never seen them.
The judge encourages Ms. Dennis to pour out her heart to Mr. Dennis. She further emphasizes the hurt Ms. Dennis went through regarding feeling unwanted because the man she believes is her father never struggled to see her or be there for her.
What do you know about my daddy? He's a truck driver. Well, why can't he drive to get to me? Am I speaking the truth?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
The DNA test result is about to be read, and the tension in the courtroom is high. The judge reads the result and reveals the truth about the paternity of Ms. Dennis.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Dennis, you are the father.
The case of Williams III versus Smith begins. Mr. Williams claims that Ms. Smith scammed him. Here is the reason why he believes he is being scammed.
Why do you believe Miss Smith has been scamming you all these years?
The scam is child support. You don't have proof. I have never signed a birth certificate. I've never been proven that I was the father of the child.
From the birth of the child, Mr. Williams never knew he was on child support until one day. He explains to the judge what happened on the day he found out that he had been placed on child support. Here is what he says.
Woke up 5 o'clock in the morning, spent 11 hours on the job. Usually it's an $80 a day, turned to a $7 a day based on child support. I can't work 11-hour day for $7. I can't do it.
The judge further asks Mr. Williams how much paying for child support has affected his life. He talks about what he has been through. Ms. Smith is quick to tell the court something interesting.
I mean, I've been held to not being able to get to my fullest ability to make a lot of outstanding money.
When I met Eli, he never had a job.
That's what
I
she
paid
thinks.
for everything.
The judge asks Ms. Smith about her relationship with Mr. Williams. She starts to recount how they met and the nature of their relationship.
Yes, we met at a club. We ain't do nothing the first night. But the only time Eli had money is when he got into that car accident.
Oh.
He got mad at me because I didn't show up at the hospital.
I never got mad at nobody.
Ms. Smith claims they were both in a relationship, but Mr. Williams denies it. The judge asks Ms. Smith if she had informed Mr. Williams when she found out she was pregnant. She also talks about Mr. Williams' reaction.
When you found out you were pregnant, did you tell him?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What day?
What was his
The
reaction?
same night.
What day?
What was his
Oh,
reaction?
goodness. Yeah, what was my reaction?
I forgot the name
Did
he
I-
wanted.
did I say hell
I
no?
forgot
Did
the
I say-
name
what did I
that he
say?
wanted me to name, but he wanted me to have a boy.
What?
He
But
do.
he seemed happy about it.
Yes, ma'am, he did.
Mr. Williams says Ms. Smith intentionally sent the papers to the wrong address. He thinks she sent the documents to his parents' house.
Somebody sent some service papers to my family's house where you know I wasn't at. She sent the court reporter, whoever serves papers, to my parents' home.
To the wrong address.
To the wrong address, knowing I ain't there.
So that you would then miss the court date
Yes.
and be named the father
Yes.
by default.
Yes.
As regards using condoms, Ms. Smith says they never did. On the other hand, Mr. Williams claims to have always used them. Something he says in this scene surprises the audience.
As far as I know, always use condoms. What I do know is she used to take my condoms off to the bathroom, and whatever she did in the bathroom with that condom, because I used to lay there, she'd take my condom off to the bathroom. I'll take care of that for you. I'll take care of that for you. You never said that.
What I'm gonna take care of? I'm gonna put it on you too?
No, you gonna.
Mr. Dennis claims that he had money and that he was born into money because his family had and still has money. It isn't clear because he just mentioned that he didn't have money for a lawyer.
So what you were saying is at the time, because you were unable to afford a lawyer and the transportation to get back to the state to fight the issue, you just had to accept the issue.
Pretty much. And she said I was broke. That's no serious matter. I've always had money. My family got money. My family come from money. We still got money.
Photos are shown on the display of Mr. Williams and the child, as well as Ms. Smith and the child. Here is what Mr. Williams has to say about the situation.
I don't think the child looks like me. I don't think she has my characteristics. I don't know nothing about her because I haven't seen her.
Clarissa is in the courtroom, and the judge is ready to hear from her. The judge asks her some questions, and she gives her replies.
Is Mr. Williams the person you were always told was your biological father?
Yes.
You never were told anyone else could be your father?
No.
You have not seen him?
No.
No birthdays?
No.
Father's Day?
No.
Holiday?
No.
Clarissa has the opportunity to tell Mr. Williams about all he has been missing out on in her life. She sounds like she is in pain. This scene can't get any more emotional.
You missed out on my entire life. I wanted to have a father to brag things about in my academic life. You were never there. I wish you were. We could have had some fun, but no, you weren't never there.
It's time to get this family some answers, as Ms. Smith claims there was no other man in her life. The judge reads out the DNA result.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Williams, you are her father.